oppressed me. A consuming curiosity pervaded my soul. And sinking back upon the chair, I remained for some time breathless and motionless, with my eyes riveted upon her person. Alas, its emancipation was excessive, and not vestige on the former being lurked in any single line of the contour. My burning glances at length fell upon the face. The forehead was high and very pale, and singularly placid, and the once jetty hair fell partially over it, and overshadowed the hollow temples with innumerable ringlets, now of a vivid yellow, jarring discordantly in their fantastic character, with the reigning melancholy of the countenance. The eyes were lifeless and lustreless, seemingly pupilless, and I shrank involuntarily from their glassy stare to the complication of the thin and shrunken lips. They parted, and in a smile of peculiar meaning, the teeth of the changed Berenice disclosed themselves slowly to my view. Would to God I had never beheld them, or if I hadn't done so, I had died. The shutting of a door disturbed me, and looking up, I found that my cousin had departed from the chamber, but from the disordered chamber of my brain had not, alas, departed and would not be driven away the white ghastly spectrum of the teeth. Not a speck on their surface, not a shade of their enamel, not an indenture on the edges, but what that brief period of her smile had sufficed to brand upon my memory. I saw them now even more unequivocally than I had beheld them then. The teeth! They were here and there and everywhere, invisibly and palpably before me. Long, narrow, and excessively white, with pale lips wreathen about them, as in the very moment of their first terrible development. Then come the full fury of my monomania, and I struggled in vain against its strange and irresistible influence. It multiplied objects of the external world. I had no thoughts but for the teeth. For these I longed with a frenzied desire. All other matters and all different interests became absorbed in their single contemplation. They alone were present to the mental eye, and they in their sole individuality became the essence of my mental life. I held them in every light, touched them in every attitude. I surveyed their characteristics, dwelt upon their peculiarities. I pondered upon their conformation. I mused upon the alteration in their nature. I shuddered as I assigned them in the imagination a sensitive, insentient power, and even when unassisted by the lips, a capability of moral expression. Oh, Mademoiselle Sally, it has been well said, "Quietus ses pas entientes sentiments." In a Berenice, I more seriously believe, quotes estent entienti the ideas. Here was it. It was the idiotic thought that destroyed me. This ideas, and therefore it was not that I covered them so madly. I felt that their possession could alone even restore me to peace, giving me back the reason. And the evening closed upon me thus, and then darkness came, and tarried, and went, and the day again dawned. In the midst of a second night were now gathering around, and I still sat motionless in that solitary room. I still sat buried in meditation, and still the phantasma of the teeth maintained its terrible ascendancy, as with the most vivid and hideous distinctness. It floated about amid the changing lights and shadows of the chamber. At length they broke in upon my dreams, a cry of horror and dismay. And Therianto, After a pause succeeded the sound of troubled voices, intermingled with many low moanings of sorrow or of pain. I arose from my seat, throwing open one of the doors of the library, saw standing out in the arched chamber a servant maiden, all in tears, who said to me that Berenice was no more. She had been seized with epilepsy in the early morning, and now, at the closing of the night, the grave was ready for its tenant, and all the preparations for the burial were completed. I found myself sitting in the library, and then again sitting there alone. It seemed to me that I had slowly awakened a confused and exciting dream. I knew that it was now midnight, and all I was well aware that since the setting of the sun Berenice had been interred. But of the dreary period which intervened, I had no positive, at least no definite comprehension. Yet its memories was replete with horror more horrible than from being vague, and a terror more terrible from ambiguity. It was a fearful page in the record of my existence, written all over with dim and hideous and unintelligible recollections. I strive to decipher them, but in vain, while ever and anon, like the spirit of a departed sound, the shrill, piercing shriek of a female voice seemed to be ranging in my ears. I had done a deed. What was it? I asked myself the question aloud, and the whispering echoes of the chamber answered me. What was it? On a table at the side, I burnt a lamp, and near lay a little box. It was no remarkable character, and I had seen it frequently before, for it was the property of the family physician. But how came it there, upon my table? Why did I shudder in regarding it? These things in no matter to be accounted for, and my eyes length dropped to the open pages of a book, and the sentence in discord within, the words in the singular but simple ones of the poet Ibn Zayd. Thy spent mihi sadalis sai sepulchrum amicae visceram curis meas equilibrum for levitas. Why then, as I perused them, did the hairs of my head erect themselves on the end, and the blood of my body become congealed within my veins? And then there came a light tap on the library door, pale as the tenant of a tomb. A menial entered to tiptoe. His looks were wild with terror, and he spoke to me in a voice tremulous, husky, and very low. What said he? Some broken sentences I heard. He told of a wild cry disturbing the silence of the night, of the gathering together of the household, of a search in the direction of the sound, and then his tone strongly distinct as he whispered me of all the violated grave, of a disfigured body enshrouded, yet still breathing, still palpitating, still alive. He pointed to my garments. They were muddy and clotted with gore. I spoke not, and he took me gently by the hand. It was indented with the impress of human nails. He directed my attention to some object against the wall. I looked for some minutes. It was a spade. With a shriek, I bound it to the table and trimmer. As I slipped my hands, it fell heavily, burst into pieces, and from it, with a rattling sound, there rolled out some instruments of dental surgery, intermingled with 32 small, white, ivory-looking substances that were scattered to and fro about the floor.